Hello and welcome to Fire in the Belly. Today we have a bit of a boardroom series and we have the Arnon Barnes. Good afternoon, Arnon.
Thank you for having me, Pete. I'm really excited to be here. I'm honored and humbled to have an opportunity to work with you again.
Yeah, listen, welcome to the show. So to give people a bit of a background, so Arnon, I mean, it's an absolute privilege to have him back on again. Started his first business at the age of 11, really financially free then by the age of 28, which is a story in itself. And we got to hear some of that the last time as well, but we're going to hear more. So Arnon is actually an explosive international speaker, an author, investor in some really sort of exciting stuff and really an exciting business mentor. So over the past 7 years, Arnon has trained more and coached more than 100,000 people from over 65 countries all over the world. He's also coached a world champion and one of the finalists from the famous TV show MasterChef Australia. I'm sure that was nice and tasty. Great work. Arnon has the privilege to share the stage with so many other thought leaders, and that's what this is all about, really, in the arena of personal development, business development. So Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, Les Brown, T. Harv Eker, and Jordan Belfort, who was played by Leonardo DiCaprio in The Wolf of Wall Street. And Chris Gardner, who also was played by Will Smith in the movie Pursuit of Happiness, to name but a few. Some great names there. So without further ado, happy to welcome Mr. Arnon Barnes back. And yeah, today we're talking about fear, really. So Arnon, thank you for coming on again. I really appreciate that. And how is life treating you at the moment before we get into it?
Very blessed. In the beginning of this pandemic, I felt people were very much confused, me included, and we didn't understand what we actually are in. And I think now that people have calibrated what this looks like, what it sounds like, with the lockdowns, with wearing masks or not wearing masks, wherever you're at mentally, emotionally, and spiritually around that subject, I think now people's spirit can conceptually understand where we're at. And now with this knowledge, we can go out and manifest. I know personally, it was a very weird, topsy-turvy, upside-down year for me, 2020. But now I've gathered my bearings. I understand where we're at, and I'm looking to bend the universe, as I mentioned to you a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love it. So, I mean, really the topic we've picked for today is fear of poverty. Now, not that we want to manifest that, of course, in any way, but it's trying to maybe reflect what's going on out there for people, So there is, well, fear in itself, there's poverty, there's lack and things like that. So, I mean, who better to talk to this, really than yourself, Arnon? So can you give us a bit of a background, Arnon, what fear of poverty really says to you?
Of course. So thanks for the question. So first of all, when I think of fear of poverty, a few things come up. First of all, the first thing that comes up is, let's start with the word fear. Let's understand what that word fear is. Many definitions around this, fuck everything and run, face everything and rise. But those are acronyms. But if you look at fear, and you look at the way people perceive fear in the 20th century, I think they've lost the context in understanding the benefit of having fear. And let's journey back. Let's go back, and I'm going to take everyone listening to this. I'm going to take you back a little bit of time, probably before you and I were even walking this planet. And if you look at our great ancestors, fear in those days was a very powerful and very important tool to have. What does it mean? If you look at the oldest profession of humankind, what was the oldest profession in humankind? Now, a lot of people right now are thinking about prostitution, but actually it was being a hunter. The first profession of the human nation, the human spirit, we were hunters. Hunters and gatherers, right? Now, if you were hunting and you felt fear, it means you were zooming in and coming close to achieving your goal, which in those days was bringing down an animal for food and to eat. And people, when they felt fear tens and tens of thousands of years ago, they knew they were close into achieving their goal. They were about to achieve meat on the table, food in the stomach, and they pursued. Today's world, there's no fear. If you think about it, what fear do we have when we hunt? And let me explain this. What kind of hunting do we do today? Well, we go into the supermarket and we see which orange is better, which banana is better, which hamburger do we want? Do we want this hamburger or that? And so we have lost our ability to hunt. However, the fear that we feel is pursuing our goals, which back then, tens of thousands of years ago, was simply to survive and eat. Nowadays, the things that we fill our minds with in terms of fear is all self-sabotaged, all made up stories. And you mentioned something, I've used this in the past, it's trapped excitement. And actually what I say to all my students is that if you are not feeling fear, you're not hunting. And if you're not hunting in the modern age, in the 20th century, right, in this time that we live in, the 21st century, if you're not hunting nowadays, if you're not feeling fear, then you're not going after your goals. You're not pursuing anything worth pursuing. And so fear is a mechanism to tell your body that you are actually pursuing something worthwhile, often sometimes greater than yourself. And so then we transition to the fear of poverty, all right? People are afraid of not having money or not being able to provide. And again, it's about the hunt. A lot of people are sitting back and waiting for life to happen for them, right? And it's a massive mistake. It's a massive mistake. You can't hope yourself into success. You can't dream yourself into a relationship. You can't, sit there and hide under a blanket and expect the universe's light to shine on you and bless you with wealth and joy and health and success. You've got to go out and you've got to pursue. That means you've got to go hunting. And it's the same with creating wealth. It's the same about having money. And I see, I've lived a life as a poor man. I came from nowhere. No rich daddy. I'm not a trust fund baby, right? No mom who said, "Here, son, here's a check for $1 million. Go make it happen." I'm still waiting for the check, and it's most likely not going to come, and I'm okay with that, right? But the reality is that fear of poverty, that fear of lack, it's the mindset of the poor. Fundamentally and foundationally, it's the mindset of the poor, because there's language that the poor use and there's language that the wealthy use. I'll give you an example. Language of the poor, and when I hear this word, when someone says this word to me, my alarm bells go up. This is language of the poor. Language of the poor is try. Language of the poor is try. I will try to make it happen. I'll try to do this. I'll try to do that. Try. When someone talks to me, instinctively, when someone says, I will try X, Y, Z, whatever it is, I get concerned. Language of the wealthy is until. I will read the books until I achieve success. I will knock on the door until I make a sale. I'll pick up the phone and cold call until I get a yes. Until. I'll eat the apple, I'll go to the gym, I'll work out until I lose the weight. Language of the wealthy versus language of the poor. And so a lot of people, from a foundational perspective, it's all starting with the way they perceive the world. They're starting with a try mindset. And if you change that one thing, you start to change other things. I have never. Can you imagine about to getting married? Imagine are you a married man, Pete? Wonderful. Can you imagine the day you're getting married, your beautiful bride is standing at the altar, you show up, sorry I'm late, the priest is standing there, your beautiful bride is dressed there, and the priest asks you, or the rabbi, or whoever was there, right? And he says, Pete, do you take this wonderful woman to be your wife? And you go, I'll try. What? She's gone. She's left the building. And so a lot of people approach life with a try mentality, and it's including with money, it's including with finance. And that lack mentality, that poor mindset starts to overflow in all areas. And so from a fundamental standpoint, when people start talking about a lack of, it's more of a mindset thing than anything. You have two people start in the same place, same location. One will skyrocket to success. The other one, guess what will happen with him or her? Not much. And it's not because one was more talented, more skillful, just one had more courage, was able to stand in the face of fear, was willing to go on the hunt, and most importantly, was able to control their emotions. A lot of people, we live in a world of, cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin and all this kind of stuff. And people are like, because it's an unknown and people have emotions. But if you can control your emotions, you can control your life. And when I hear someone say, I have a fear of a lack of money, all I'm saying is you don't trust yourself. I took a massive turn, 180 degrees, like most people listening to this and most people in the world during this pandemic, right? 2020, here's a guy, good looking, talented, skilled. I'm inspired to inspire. I love teaching and traveling, and obviously we met in this space where I get to teach and travel around the world and work with business owners and business leaders and help them grow their businesses, acquire new businesses, scale their businesses, and sell their businesses. So I'm very blessed. And then all of a sudden, shut down, lockdown, no travel, no nothing. And I have to reinvent myself. And, so I've gone 180 degrees with this whole situation. And now that 2021 has hit us, and now we've got a concept of what this actually looks like, now I have the power to go and manifest. But here's the key. Even though I had an identity crisis during this period, who am I all of a sudden, right? I can't travel, I can't speak, I can't jump on planes. To give all the listeners an example, I used to average about 80 to 90 flights a year. I'll say that again. I used to average 80 to 90 flights a year. And so all of a sudden, all of this is taken away. I'm not traveling. I'm not speaking on stages. And I have to reinvent the whole wheel, right? And it's just a mental game. It's all a mental game. But if you look at the mindset of people, even with this pandemic and everything that's happening, you've got people who are going to try to figure it out, and you've got people who are going to figure it out until they succeed. And what I say to all business owners and business leaders, I say it doesn't matter how many times you fail, because ultimately you only have to get it right once. Once. You get it right once, you change your life forever. And sometimes you've got to work 10 years hard to get the 1 year that changes everything. 10 years hard. No recognition, no acknowledgement. Hustle, grind, pain, struggle, suffering, sacrifice, sacrifice, sacrifice. For 10 freaking years till you get the 1 year, Pete, that changes everything. And you only have to get it right once, my friend. You get it right once, you change everything. And so from a fundamental standpoint, when people say I have a lack of, I have a fear of poverty, a lack of money, I'm afraid of a lack of money, all they're really saying is I don't trust myself. And when you trust yourself, in other words, when you are in your power, when you are the eye of the storm, it doesn't matter because you'll figure it out. It's all good. And that's why, my hashtags are mind of steel, heart of gold. Mind of steel, heart of gold. Unfortunately, the way we're programmed, when we look at poverty, we're programmed to do the 9 to 5, 9 to 5, 9 to 5 until you're 65. And so from a fundamental core perspective, we've been programmed to study, get good grades, get a degree, get a good job, get a good income, buy a good home, create good debt, which is bad debt, right? Buy a house, get a mortgage, retire, and die. That is how we've been programmed. Now, in my life, one of my biggest blessings is I dropped out of school pretty much when I was 14. I became the man of the house. My father my father left at a young age. I became the man of the house, being the eldest. I had a younger sister who at the time was about, 10 years old, and a brother who was 4 years old, 10 years younger than me. And so looking back now, we all live our lives forward, but it all makes sense when we look backwards. And looking back now, the biggest gift that I had was not being in school and dropping out and choosing to go to work and help my mom put food on the table and clothes on my brother and sister's back. And having a lack of money was a real experience in my life. So I don't want any of the listeners sitting here or wherever they're listening to hear me and say, oh yeah, but he didn't. Oh, I have been in the trenches. I remember being a 17-year-old kid sitting at home with my siblings, my younger sister and baby brother. So my sister was about 13, 14 maybe. My brother was about 7 years old. And I remember distinctly at about late at night, 10, maybe 11 o'clock at night, knock on the door. Go over to the door. Yours truly goes over to the door. I put my eye in the little peephole to see who's there. Who's knocking on the door at stupid o'clock, right? It's the landlord. Because you see, we didn't have our own house. We would move houses every 1, 2, 3 years. We were apartment to apartment to apartment. That's how I lived. That's all I knew growing up. My mom was struggling. Bless my mom. One of my heroes. And I look through the people and I see my landlord. So I was like, okay, well, the landlord. But I also see two weird images standing next to him that I couldn't understand what it is, looking through the people. So naturally, I open the door. As I open the door, he starts yelling, your mom hasn't paid the rent. I want the rent. First thing I did was I took a step outside and I closed the door behind me. Because inside I've got a younger sister and a baby brother. And it was a very epic, powerful moment for me, because while I was in that moment, the landlord says to me, your mom owes me 2 months or 3 months rent, whatever it was. And I want my money now, and I'm coming in and I want to take things from the house. And he's standing there with these two gorillas, big boys. I'm a 17-year-old kid. And the only thought that comes to my mind is that I've got a sister in there and I've got a younger brother in there. And there is no way that I'm going to let these guys get through me. It was one of those epic moments like you see in Lord of the Rings. You shall not pass. And I said, listen, I closed the door behind me. I said, look, you're not getting in the house. How much do we owe? How much does my family owe? How much does mom owe? Great. You give me 24 hours and I will get the money. But you are not coming in. That I will get you your money. You're not coming in. And so growing up with these situations are kind of have molded my mindset. And we spoke about this a few minutes earlier. Where there's a will, there's a way. And most people, they don't have a will, they have excuses. They have stories. We've lost our identity in this fear factor, this whole fear of pandemics and stories and lack. We've been sold a lie. Instead of standing in our power and believing in our skills and our talents and the gifts that we've been blessed with, we listen to the media, we listen to the news, and we listen to people who've given up on their dreams. That's why I'm very cautious about who I allow into my world. You know, we're having this conversation now, not only because you're a good-looking guy, but because we share the same mindset. And success is a mindset. I always say to people, when people come to me and say, you know, Arnon, I also want to be a millionaire. Or multi-millionaire in my case, right? And I say, look, you got to understand something, that money is the last thing to show up. And they say, what? I say, let me explain. Money is the last thing that will show up. And they say, well, what do you mean? I say, look, if you want to be a millionaire, basically you're saying you want to have $1 million or more in a bank account or in Bitcoin or whatever it is, right? You want to have $1 million or more. But to be a millionaire, it's more a mindset than it is a number in a bank account. So, and the money is the last thing to show up. What does it mean? First of all, you've got to eat like a millionaire. You've got to drink like a millionaire. You've got to have integrity like a millionaire. You've got to honor your agreements like a millionaire. You've got to add value like a millionaire. You've got to show up on time like a millionaire. You've got to be kind like a millionaire. You've got to be good-hearted. You've got to have integrity. You've got to be honest. You've got to have your boundaries. You've got to be a leader. All these things need to show up first before the money. And if one of those things don't show up, it's very hard or mostly unlikely that you will be a millionaire. And so that's why people give up as well. Because people say, oh, well, the money should come. No, the money is the last thing to show up. And most people aren't even willing to surrender to the process. When I started my journey, again, I started with a mindset until. I will do whatever it takes to win legally, morally, and ethically until I become X, Y, and Z. I will read the books. I will take the seminars. I will get the coaching. I will take the feedback until. But most people try. I'll try the coaching. I'll try this habit. I'll try adding value. Their life is one big try. And so fundamentally, when I hear people say, you know, there's lack or they don't have, I believe in some shape, in some form, they're basically saying they don't trust themselves. You know, during this pandemic, some of my companies are upside down. They're being hurt. They're being devastated. I'm not going to sit here and, you know, sell a beautiful story that everything's hunky-dory. I am working harder now than I've ever worked. And I'm a successful man in my own right, in my own shape, in my own form. But I'm working harder now and doing things now that I haven't done for 5, 8, 10 years. And it is what it is. But here's the thing. A pandemic is just a correction. Everyone's taking a hit in some shape, in some form. Whether it's not being able to see family members, whether it's not being able to travel and see loved ones, whether it's not being able to celebrate your Christmas or your New Year's with people you would normally do it, or is it just maybe the business that's taking a hit? Or maybe it's all of those things. But all we're in right now is a correction. And right now, this correction is separating the boys from the men. And to all the women listeners, the girls from the women, respectfully. And so, you know, this lack of money and this poverty mindset has been instilled in us from a very young age by going to school, work hard, get a job, do well, get a degree, you know, get paid. Get paid a job is probably one of the biggest lies we've been sold to. It's one of the biggest lies that people have been sold onto. Listen, J-O-B, jump out of bed. J-O-B, just over broke. You know, the writing's on the wall. And this is where you got to trust yourself. Everyone has a gift. Everyone has a talent. Everyone's been blessed with unique skills. And this is where you just got to allow the universe to bring that out in you. You got to just bring those gifts out. And listen, you don't have to start a hustle of 1 million or 10 million tomorrow. I always say, there's a statement that says, every great journey started with its first step. I say bullshit. I say every great journey didn't start with a first step. It started first from an idea. And most people have buried their ideas deep down inside of them. And they're fear-based. They're afraid of the whole money concept. And I think it boils down to a lack of trust. And so I think I've been going on a little bit of a rant here, but I've lived in a space where there was lack, where there wasn't. And at any given time, you make a choice. Are you going to be a victim to the circumstance, or are you going to be the hero of the story? And you're going to decide, am I the victim of the cards that I've been dealt, or am I going to be the hero as a result of the cards I've been dealt? And you're going to make the decision. And that's all it is. All it is a decision. I have some people in my family that they took the decision to be victims, and that's on them. And I've got other people in my family that have taken the decision that I'm going to be the hero of my story. I'm one of them. And so at every time, at every moment, we're giving meaning to things. And one of my mentors, T. Harv Eker, who I'm very blessed to not only be mentored by, who's mentored me, but also I've had the blessing to teach a program called the Millionaire Mind Intensive. And one of the things he talks about is nothing has meaning except for the meaning you give it. And most people are giving meaning to things that is so destructive, or meaning that is so disempowering. You're sitting with one of your team members, and your team member says, listen, I'm quitting. Now you have two choices. The horror, we're fucked, we're screwed, what are we going to do? Or, wow, an opportunity to rethink, re-strategize, redefine things, look at things differently. What can I learn from this experience? What can I take from this and do better? Remember, there's two kinds of people in the world. They'll both receive a donut. Two kinds of people in the world. Both people will receive a donut. The one person who receives the donut looks at the donut and says, wow, look at the coloring, look at the flavoring, look at the, smell it. It's amazing. Look at this donut. The other person gets the donut. All the person focuses on is the whole. The whole. And so at any given time, you've got to decide, which person are you? Are you the person that focuses on the whole? Or are you the person that focuses on the blessings that this will bring or might bring? So that's a little bit on my perspective of a lack of money, or the mindset around poverty, fear. And that's how I approach things. Am I a creator? Am I a destroyer? Am I a victim, or am I a hero? And I'm going to write a story anyway. Do I want to write a story of a victim, or do I want to write a story of a hero? And that's everyone's choice. Because when there is no way, when you have a commitment, a way will be created.
I love that sort of evolution from hunter. I mean, we can't really go around with spears these days. I think you'd kind of be slightly frowned upon. But that hunter evolution has almost, and if I'm picking you up correctly, it's almost like turn that into like a goal striving. If I've got that correctly, if I've understood it correctly, take the same hunger, the same drive, the same precision, the same want, the same need, and actually you take that into something. But you've got to set the goal, you've got to set the target, and then go.
100%. 100%. And so the target today is not to hunt the, the bison that's running around the plains because we need its fur to stay warm and we need its meat to eat. We live in modern times where the most hunting we do, like I said, is going to the supermarket and choosing which banana we're gonna take home. And so from my perspective, we become weak in that area. And our courage muscles, our hunting muscles, our willingness to adapt to fear has become weakened. And so, we all have the ability to do great things. I've had the blessing to teach and train all over the world. I have more than 100,000 students from over 65 different countries. And what I see the human spirit capable of doing is phenomenal. That's what it's capable of doing. But what does the human spirit normally do? Weak. And so, I agree. Most people, what do? When most people feel fear, they retreat. When most people feel fear, they back off. When in fact, if you pursue the fear, you're actually going to find that it's not that scary. It's all a made up story. And B, it's gonna bring you to potentially your next level. Your next level is just over the border of fear. And most people, when they get that electric shock as they reach the end of their comfort zone, I always say your comfort zone is surrounded by electric wire. And if you want to go through it, you're going to get an electric shock, make no mistake. But guess what? As the corny saying is, all the magic happens outside of your comfort zone. So you just have to get over that electric fence. And you're going to know it's going to be scary. You're going to get an electric shock, but you're not going to die from it. And this is the distinction between fear and danger. Danger is real. Fear is a made up story. And so most people, they've got the translations mixed up. Everything is dangerous. No. Let's make the distinction. Crossing the road when there's a truck hurling down at 100 kilometers an hour, that's dangerous. Going for your goals, that's fear. What's holding you back is fear. It's not danger, it's fear. But people perceive it as danger. They think of the same truck, like nothing's going to happen to you if you go to a meeting and the guy laughs at you and says, you know what, I'm never going to do business with you because you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Great, take the lesson, go back to your laboratory, learn from it, see what are the 3 things you can do better, and come back stronger, wiser, and with a better offer. The interesting thing about, if I take the mindset of failing and you analyze it, they say that about 80% of businesses that start fail and go bankrupt in the first 2 years. But here's the really interesting statistic. They say that businesses that go for a second turn, for a second round. So if your business failed and went bankrupt in the first 2 years, if you're one of those plus minus 80% of people, if you get up again and you dust yourself off and you go again, your chance of success is over 80%. But most people, they take a hit and they never get up again. They say, holy shit, I'm not doing this again. I'm going to get a job. Why? Fear of lack, fear of money, fear of not having money. And so it's all these things that debilitate people and hold them back. And so, how come you see people, and I include myself in this picture, how come you see people coming from nowhere? No money, no good background, didn't finish school. On paper, I should be dead, in prison, or on drugs or an alcoholic. On paper. Okay? No father, no school, no degree, no college. I'm unemployable. You can't employ me. I'm a rebel. Because I don't stand in the status quo, right? People have been programmed. You speak like this, you sound like this, you get a job like this, you work like this, you get your salary like this, you take your holidays like this, and that's how life is. I refuse to buy into that bullshit. Like, I'm a free spirit. Like, people say, Arnon, are you part of the 5 a.m. club? Like, I used to do the 5 a.m. club. Now I'm part of a different club. My club is wake up the fuck when you want club. And so people are stuck in these boxes. And, you see these people that have come from nowhere. They didn't have money. They didn't, we didn't know where the next meal was coming from. There were times where we never knew where the next meal was coming from. We never went hungry, bless my mom, but we didn't know where the next meal was coming from. And I think that having that level of, this is the situation, it also gives a certain level of strength. And that's why you see people that have come from nowhere achieve great things. And you see people who've got rich daddies and rich mommies end up spiraling and going in the wrong direction. Not everyone, of course. I don't want to generalize. But here's the thing. If you really are afraid of poverty or not having, go work in a shelter. Go work, do some volunteer work for 2-3 days. Even better, take a sleeping bag and go sleep on the road. Go sleep on the street. Go be a homeless person. Go live a life of a homeless person for 3-4 days. Like literally, go into the world, take a sleeping bag, take some clothes, lock your house, leave the car, and walk as though you're a homeless person. Go live like that for 3, 4, 5 days. Experience it. Realize that it's not as bad as you think it is. Take the lessons and then come back, and you're going to see how powerful you become. Because now you faced your greatest fear. And it's like, holy shit, this is not that scary. I mean, it's definitely uncomfortable. Definitely were moments that there was maybe danger. And yes, my mind was making up fearful stories. But, if you want to overcome the fear, just go to it. And you'll discover it's not as scary as you are. And when you can, if you're open for those experiences, that's where the growth is. Like one of the things that I do with my clients that I coach, by the way, I never recommend anyone doing anything that I haven't done. So I'll give you an example. Some of my coaching clients, these are leaders, business owners, they have teams, they're building great companies. Some are small €1 million companies. My biggest client does 400 million a year. And, sometimes I'm sitting in conversations with different clients that I coach, different times, different periods. And some of my clients, I say, look, one of the things you need to do, my friend, you need to go jump out of an airplane. Calm down with a parachute. Yes, with a parachute. And they look at me as like, what? I have to go jump out of an airplane, with a parachute? And I say, yeah, because you need to shock your nervous system. You need to overcome some fears. And most importantly, you need to grow as a leader. And by the way, just for all the listeners out there and people who are watching this, I've jumped out of an airplane twice. Yes, with a parachute, of course. But so again, I don't recommend people doing things that I haven't done first. I always lead by example, right? But the point is, I did it because I needed to face my fears. I needed to go to my next level. And I needed to let go of what my mind was perceiving. This is all there is. And that moves us into the next phase of we have to transcend. We have to transform. Our bodies are naturally changing. Our cells of our bodies, the molecules in our bodies are changing every 30, 60, 90 days. We're not the same person we are today than we were, 2, 3, 4, 6 months ago. But it's the same with our mindset. You see, the psychology is if you want to have something you've never had, you have to become someone you've never been. And if you want to become someone you've never been, that means you have to do something you've never done. And most people are afraid of that concept. Most people back off from that psychological basic principle. You want to have a better, bigger, more loving relationship, you need to transcend. You need to change. And that's the problem with most people. Most people are looking outside for the answers. True leaders look within. You want to have more money? You need to change. You want to have more success? You need to change. You want to have better health? You need to change. You want to add more value? You want to be kinder? You want to, all these things, everybody's looking outside for answers. But when we take responsibility and when we look within and we realize that our confidence, our love, our strengths, our gifts, our talents live within us and not outside of us, that's where things start to transform. And that's leadership. And most people don't know how to lead. Most people can't even lead their families. They can't lead their children. They can't even lead themselves. And that's one of the reasons why I developed the safari leadership experience. We mentioned a few words about that. I take people down to Africa, and I put them in a very unique and very special environment. These are safaris. These are walking safaris. These are not normal safaris. You go in a jeep and you smile at the elephant and you look at the lion and you crack a smile and a selfie. This is a very different experience, very powerful experience, but it's transforming. Because again, if you want to have what you've never had, you have to become someone you've never been. And if you want to be someone you've never been, you've got to do things you've never done. And so we all have that power. We all have the gift. The only question is, what story are you telling yourself? And everybody's telling themselves a story. Everybody has a representative. Everyone has two representatives. One that's empowering us and one that's disempowering us. The question is, which one do you listen to more? So yeah, and it's funny because people put so much attention and attachment to money. The moment you can disattach yourself, disattachment is one of the most empowering things you can do. When you're like obsessed with your wife, oh, I can't live without her, you've given away your power. You're not in your power. The moment you can disattach yourself from anything, you give back your power to yourself. Most people give away their power all the time. Oh, without my job, I don't know what I'm going to do. Why are you giving away your power? You don't trust yourself. No, if I don't have money, I won't be able to. You don't trust yourself. Being over-attached is never a good thing. It's never healthy. But then you got people who are too disattached, right? It's like, I don't need money. I don't care about money. Money is evil. And what? Money is neither good or evil. It's neither, good or bad. Money is what money is, but it's what you are that magnifies what money becomes. So in other words, if you're a good person and all of a sudden you get a lot of money or you create a lot of money or a lot of money comes to you, if your core, your being is good, you become this amazing, kind and giving person. It just amplifies who you are, more of. But if you get a lot of money and your core is bad, miserable, complaining, whining, then all money does, it magnifies that energy. And then you become the most irritable and miserable person to be around. And so this is what a lot of people don't understand. They say, oh, money is. No, money is nothing. Money is a neutral vibration. We are the vibration that magnifies what money becomes. And you look at people like, you look at people like Adolf Hitler. And then you look on the other side of the spectrum, you look at Martin Luther King. They had the same power. One used that power for light. The other one used that power for darkness. So you choose.
It's perception, though, isn't it, also? And controversially, I mean, in Conversations with God, Donald Walsh there, and he runs the theory, and it's I'm treading very, very carefully here, but saying Hitler believed in what he was doing.
Yeah.
And I'm not advocating it in any sense or fashion, but he believed that was the right thing.
Yeah. And by the way, you're talking to a Jewish man. So no, yeah, 100%. Yeah. So the power that we have, by the way, within us, and this is going to sound scary, and I'm going to tread now on thin ice. Within us, we have a Hitler, we have a Martin Luther King, we have a Mandela, we have a Michael Jordan, we have a Muhammad Ali, and within us, we have all of that. It's just, who do we want to nurture? Who do we want to bring out? Within us, there's a champion, and within us, there's a victim. Who do we nurture? Jim Rohn, one of my teachers, who unfortunately is no longer with us. Jim Rohn said this: if I walk into your house and I look around and I see the books you read and what you feed your mind, I will be able to make a distinction and understand whether you're destined for financial abundance or financial destruction. So what are you feeding your mind? And most people, they put garbage in their mind. Oh my goodness, the shit they feed themselves. And then they wonder why their life looks the way it looks. Look, life is hard. You got to choose your hard. I'll say that again. Life is hard, but you got to choose which hard you want. You can choose the I'm a victim, poor me, lack, I don't have money, I'm struggling, too much month at the end of the money, right? You can choose that hard. Or there's another hard you can choose is I got to study, I got to read, I got to network, I got to talk with good people, I got to add value, I got to wake up early, I got to go to sleep late, I got to add value, I got to honor my agreements, even when they're wrong, even when I'm pissed off. It's hard, but you got to choose which hard you want. And guess what? And each hard, at the end of the rainbow, there's a pot of something. At the hard of, poor me, I'm a victim, there's a pot of shit. At the, I'm going to add value, I'm going to wake up early, I'm going to work my ass off, I'm going to, be aerodynamic, end up being aerodynamic, like this, there's potentially a pot of gold there. So which hard do you want? Choose your hard. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. And why? I'm going to ask maybe a fairly basic or maybe a confusing question, but why are we attaching wealth? And I mean that in terms of mental, physical, spiritual, but we attach that so strongly to money.
I think it's actually more of a masculine vibration.
Okay.
I think, having been blessed to have coached and trained so many people around the world.
So before you go into that, do you see the masculine vibration as your consciousness? So are you in that camp that female is unconscious, male is conscious?
No, not really. No, okay. not in that space. But I just see that. Look again. If you break it down to the way we've been designed compared to women. And by the way, just to clarify, I think women are superior beings. Just to clarify, I think women are smarter, wiser, more intelligent. They are the second version. If you go by the Bible, by the way, I'm not a biblical man, but they're the second version. So they're the upgrade of the man, right? But that's a different conversation. So I don't want any of the female listeners to think, oh, no. I actually, in my companies, I have some very, very powerful women leading my organizations. I mean, you know my team, and I've got some amazing women that I'm surrounded with, and that's and I'm very, very happy and very proud and very pleased that they're with me, because they bring some really good skills. But if you look from a foundational perspective, men are hunters, women are gatherers, and that's why women are also more expressive, because they have to explain exactly where the berries are. Eat these berries, don't eat those berries. These are poisonous, these are not poisonous. The way you get there, you turn a left, you turn a right, you go up, you go down, you climb down, you go left, you wait 10 minutes, man, it's like the target is always moving. So we're just not, where's the target? We're just gonna go, right? And that's why also, if you're in the presence of a masculine man answers questions very straight. Yes, no, good, bad. The challenge with that is that a woman can't relate to that, and that's where, challenges happen in relationships. So you've got to evolve as well, right? But I see from my experience is that success and wealth, and by the way, work and wealth and success is a very masculine energy. That's not the feminine vibration. And this is where I also see there's a lot of confusion going on, men thinking they're women and women thinking they're men, and then they come together and there's all this confusion going on. But that's a different conversation, maybe not for now. But I do see and I do feel that, this whole perspective of success and wealth creation and financial freedom, I do see it much more of a masculine vibration. And it's it's a deep topic, I'll tell you that. But that's why predominantly, most of my clients that I work with are men. Not that I don't work with women. I've got some amazing women that I work with, but primary are men.
Is in that context, is fear and risk, are they attached to each other?
I think people attach them to each other.
Okay.
And I think a good question to all the listeners is to, if you're listening to this right now, get a pen and paper and write down, what is the definition of fear? For you, write down the word fear and what is your definition? And then when you've written down that definition, write down the word risk. And then see what your definition is. Now, here's a question to all the listeners. When you took risks, first of all, first question is, how big of a risk taker are you? On a scale 1 to 10, how big of a risk taker are you? That's the first question. And answer it to yourself. If you're listening to, just say, oh, I'm a risk taker on a scale 1 to 10, 27. I mean, whatever it is, right? And answer that question. But here's the thing. There is no success without taking risk. So if you wrote down right now on a scale 1 to 10, I'm a 3 or 4 or 5 or even a 6, then maybe you need to up your risk, which basically means people who are willing to take risk, from my experience, are just people who trust themselves more. They trust that they will figure it out when they come to the bridge. You don't need to, Martin Luther King said, you don't have to see the whole staircase. All you have to see is the next step. Most people aren't even willing to take the next step. Is there a relationship between fear and risk? I don't think so, but I think people create a relationship. People are creating, like self-sabotage. Oh my goodness. Self-sabotage. Like I know people that literally can find a great person to be with, a great man, a great woman, a great guy, a great girl, and this person ticks every box. And they've been looking for this person for a long time, and some way they find a way to fuck it up. Self-sabotage. And we do it in our relationships, we do it with our money, we do it in our businesses, we do it with ourselves. You shouldn't be eating that at 11 o'clock at night, but still, he sits there or she sits there and she puts it in her mouth. Dude, self-sabotage. It's a big one. It's a big one.
Why?
You know what? It's the inability to control our emotions. We're allowing our emotions to get the better of ourselves. It's a lack of discipline. And I think a lot of people don't have that image in their mind of what this is actually going to cost them. It's like, let me give you an example. Like when I meet people and people say to me, business owners, they meet me and they say, oh, you're a business coach and you're a businessman and you do some cool things. Very nice. Okay, we'll stay in touch. Never hear from them. And then 2, 3, 4 years later, I get a call. Hi, Arnon Barnes. Yes. I got your number from Peter, and he told me he does some coaching with you. And I told him I've got some problems in my business and some challenges. And he really recommended you and me that we have a conversation. And I say to them, okay, well, just give me a synopsis. What's going on? And he says, well, the reality is basically I'm fucked. I've got 3, 4, 5 months left of cash flow until the Titanic sinks. You know what my first question is? My first question is, why didn't you call me a year ago? You know what they say? Because a year ago, everything was great. Everything was good. And that's where I say, that's exactly when you should have called me. And that's what most people don't understand. Most people try to fix their roof when there's a hurricane outside. The secret is to fix your roof when the sun is shining. And it's the same thing. Most people are, they're sabotaging themselves. They're not in control of their emotions. And the time to get help is when you don't need help. I always say to investors and business owners, the time to raise money is when you don't need it. The best time to go to the marketplace to raise capital is when you don't need it. Because the moment you need it, you push away the opportunity. I always say, there's unwritten laws in the universe. One of the unwritten laws of the universe says neediness pushes away opportunity. I'll say that again. Neediness pushes away opportunity. It's like the guy who wants to date the girl, right? Please, will you date me? Please, will you date me? Please, will you date me? The woman's going to vomit. Get away from me, dude. Ugh, stay away. Because neediness pushes away opportunity. It's an unwritten law in the universe, but it exists. And so, you know, why do people self-sabotage themselves? Because I don't think they have a clear vision of what they actually want to achieve in the future, what they want to look like, what do they want to feel, and all these things. We're living in very confusing times right now. People at home, it's unnatural. People are not hugging, people are not meeting. We are by nature herd animals. That's why you have two restaurants next to each other. They both sell the same food, the same pricing, everything's the same. One is full, one is empty. Which one do you go to? The one that is full. Why? Because we are herd animals. We levitate towards the crowd. And so there's a lot of confusion going on right now. And so self-sabotage, you know, people are confused. They don't understand what putting that, you know, and by the way, I'm not sitting here like I'm a you know, an angel, you know. I've done this and I've got my sabotaging that happens to me and I've got to catch myself. Holy shit, don't do that. Don't say that. Don't be that person. Because, yeah, you know, I carry my stories with me. We all tell ourselves stories. And it's the stories that we tell ourselves that predominantly predict the outcome of our lives. If you are in a mindset, if your story is poor me, poor me, poor me, well, guess what kind of life you're going to live? If your story is, holy shit, you know, daddy's not here, he left, there's two younger kids at home and we got to put food on the table, let's crack on and have, you know, make some fun out of this. Well, then that's what becomes your experience. Most people tell themselves shitty stories and sabotage themselves. Can't control their emotions. Get caught up in the emotions. Instead of being the eye of the storm, they are the storm.
What's been one of your biggest risks? And what did you learn from it?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Well, I can tell you definitely about one of my recent biggest risks. A few years ago, I was told about cryptocurrency. And I started to study it. And I started to listen to my advisors, people I consider my advisors. I've got some very successful, very wealthy, very good people around me. And I started to ask them questions about, you know, Bitcoin and Ethereum. And I started to do research. I started to dig. I started to ask questions. I started to educate myself. Most people don't educate themselves. Oh, no, it's not for me. Go educate yourself. People make judgments before they educate. And I took what I would like to say is a substantial amount of money, and I invested it into cryptocurrency. And it was a big risk. And, you know, we're speaking now, first week of January. And I think first week of January, 2021, I apologize. And I think we know where Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is. And most importantly, I hope the listeners understand where it's going to. But it was a big risk, massive risk. And I could have gotten wiped out. But I trusted myself. Not that I trusted myself that I wouldn't lose the money. I trusted myself that if I lost the money, I know I can recreate it because I've done it before. And so, in that lack of trust is what people are missing. Because at one point, at one time, someone somewhere said something that made them feel small, took away their power, or suppressed them. And then we play small. And so, you know, I don't allow people into my circle that come from that energy. If you want to be around me, you've got to come from light. You've got to come from kindness. You've got to come from, you know, positivity. And don't get me wrong. It's not that I'm this pink unicorn. Everything is, you know, life is only, you know, rainbows. And that's not what I mean. I'm just saying it's not about whether shit's going to happen. It's whether you have the capacity and the mind space and the mindset to deal with it. And I know that whatever curveball the universe throws at me, and I'm not inviting anything, but I know that I have the capacity mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and financially to deal with it. And that's trust. And when you have that trust, you have calm. When you have that calm, you have power. Most people are not in their power. They're based in fear, they're based in worry, they're based in scarcity, they're based in lack. And it's a shame because one life.
Is trust the opposite of fear? Is that it's a good reflection?
I think to a degree it is. I think it is to a degree. Yeah. I think if you look, you can trust and still have fear.
Okay.
At least from my perspective.
Well, I love your example in that, because as you say, you've educated yourself, you've looked at the low. It could be a wipeout or whatever. However, you have an even greater understanding on past that and saying, well, no matter what happens here, then it's the conclusion is way past. Yeah,
because there were two questions that came up. First of all, to understand, I mean, I already mentioned that, I have the capacity I trust myself. Okay. If all shit broke loose tomorrow, if you took everything away from me tomorrow, give me 3, 4, 5 years, I'll rebuild, and bigger and better. Because I have that trust. But there were two other drivers that were involved in that decision specifically, was understanding my risk, my appetite for risk. I asked all the listeners on a scale 1 to 10, how much do you consider yourself a risk taker? And I know, and by the way, for everyone listening or watching this, ask yourself this question. When you took risks, was the outcome for the better or for the worse? Maybe in the moment you felt fucked. We're allowed to be real here, right? Maybe in the moment you took a risk and you felt fucked, but if you look long term, if you didn't wear the hat of the victim and you stepped back in your power and you said, I'm going to use this as fuel to drive me, I'm going to use this lesson to propel me forward. If you look at it from that perspective, and I hope you did take that action, so was taking a risk, did it serve you or did it not serve you? Every time I took a risk and I got hurt, in the end, it ended up being a blessing, a hidden blessing, but still a blessing. Maybe in the moment I couldn't see it, but it always ended up being a blessing. And so, the two things that I looked at when I took this big risk of investing into, Bitcoin and Ethereum and all that, the two things is what is, knowing myself. Yeah. Socrates said, know thyself. Most people don't know themselves. And I know that I trust myself. I've got an appetite for risk because I've got high levels of trust. And the third thing is I looked at regret. You see, most people say life is short. Bullshit. It's the longest thing you're going to do. It ain't short. It's a lot of things that ain't short. So in terms of regret, the last thing that I looked at before I stepped into cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and stuff, I asked myself, what kind of regret do I want to have? Because we're all going to have regrets. The only question is, what regret what regret can we make a conscious decision of today that we can live with later? And I asked myself a question, which regret could I live with more? I've got some great people around me, and I've got some, as I mentioned, advisors around me. Could I live with the regret of sitting on the sidelines, not taking any action, sitting on the substitute bench and just watching all the players, and then all of a sudden they're investing X, Y, and Z, and then it skyrockets, 10x, 20x, 50x, 100x. Is that the regret that I want? Or I invest, lose all my money, but at least I was in the game, trust myself that I can recreate and come back. It will hurt, and it probably hurt bad. Which regret do I prefer? Oh, by the way, there is a third option, of course, that I actually get in and it skyrockets and we're all living happily ever after. That's always that is actually the purpose, right? I'm not trying to attract bad situations, but we have to be real and look at the adversity and the situation as is, right? And so I chose the regret that I preferred. I preferred the regret of if the investment goes south. I rather would have known that I was in it. I played full out. I did my best. I showed up. I educated myself. I researched. I asked the questions. Maybe I didn't ask the right questions, but I know there will come more blessings from the second situation than just sitting here and being paralyzed by fear and not taking action. And so I chose the other regret. And the way things are looking right now, I think neither regrets are going to manifest. The thing that's manifesting right now is, well, crypto is the new. It's where the world is going to, I believe. And you look at the markets. There's something happening. So that has been probably one of the biggest risks I've taken recently in the last few years, and it was a big risk. I'll tell you that. But it was one that I was willing to breathe in, and I could wrap my head around. Yeah.
It comes across as a balance of trust. It's a balance of knowledge. It's, risk management, there. And I suppose really what I'm trying to almost get to, or I'm trying to figure is, do you prefer to are you fear-based or are you pleasure-based? I mean, in terms of that, is it a kind of case of going, well, I balanced everything and I want it more than I fear the downside?
I think I'm more excited based. I think there's more. I think there is more than black and white. And I believe in 50 Shades of Grey, right? I believe in different perspectives, and I think there's some things that I approach fear based, and there's some things I approach pleasure based. But the way I look at my life, and I'm very blessed to live the way I live and to have the lifestyle I live. And listen, I always say to people, make a decision today that your future self will thank you for. Make a decision today. Do something today. Take an action. Connect with another person. Align with someone who can coach you, guide you, help you, support you, give you a hug or kick you up the ass. Take an action today that your future self will look back and say, good man, good woman, good. That was a good decision. And so, where I come from it is, I am making decisions on a daily, weekly, monthly basis with the intention that my future self will look back and say to my younger self, poof, boy, you were connected. Good man, thank you. Now let me continue with the jet skis. And so a lot of people don't make those decisions, right? And so, to answer your question, yeah, people are afraid. And it's the way we've been conditioned. Yeah.
I get, and circling back on something you said a while ago, and it's almost like the corporate world, and it's almost the vision I have in my head is almost like this, following almost the Pareto principle, that there's so many people just get stuck in the middle bit in the corporate world. It's good enough to be good, but not bad enough to leave it or to move away. And it's like a fear trap. It's a risk trap, and it's kind of, we'll sort of feed you enough to keep you here, but not enough for you to get too fat here.
Yeah, it's a classic of the employee who's willing to do enough so you don't fire him, and you're willing to pay him enough so he doesn't leave. And that's the world you want to live in? Nah, we've been blessed with greatness. We've been blessed with gifts and talents. Step into your power, trust yourself, ask better questions. You see, one of the fundamental things is people are asking themselves the wrong questions. You have to remember the mind acts like a heat-seeking missile. There's, from the Bible, it says, ask and you shall receive. So when you ask a shitty question, you get naturally a shitty answer. The reason why people come and coach with me and work with me is because I ask powerful questions. And a powerful question provokes a powerful answer. And your quality of your life is determined by the questions you ask. Most people ask terrible questions. The question is, oh, how do I pay my bills this month? Well, if you ask that kind of question, what kind of life are you going to have? If you ask a powerful question, how do I create wealth? How do I create financial freedom? How do I create a business that works without me? How do I implement a strategy that I am not needed? Different questions, different outcomes, different answers. Yeah.
I want to be respectful of your time here. So really, fear of poverty, when people hear that and see that, what should they be taking away today? What are the real sort of, of the plethora of golden nuggets you put out, but what's the one thing you want to make sure people hear?
If I can leave everyone with one sentence that throughout the years has made a massive impact on me, it's this. The best way to help the poor, and I understood this a long time ago, because I've been, I don't want to say poor, I've been broke for sure. But there were moments where I certainly was growing up as poor. Although I never perceived it at the time, but I could feel the way I was treated as though I was poor. And so I learned a long time ago this, and it is the best way to help the poor is not to become one of them. And I live my life from that standpoint.
Love it. Arnon, thank you for your time. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your golden nuggets of knowledge, experience, intellect, wisdom. Until the next time.
It's been a privilege. I appreciate you. Spread your light. Thank you. I honor you and I appreciate you. And I am grateful that I had the opportunity to be here. And I hope that your listeners tune in more, because you're a phenomenal man spreading a lot of light. And I just want to acknowledge you and thank you for this opportunity. Thank you, Pete. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.